We got a Matt Mills update, and it's a good one. Ryan Preece, we got a little bit of a clue on where he might be going next season, and, well, we should probably talk about Tyler Reddick winning the race too, huh? So let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, first things first, let's talk about Matt Mills. He will be going home, and not only is he going home, but he is going to be racing at Martinsville. He released a video on Twitter, so go over there on Twitter or X.com, whatever you want to call it, and check it out. But he titled it, "Glad to be heading home, appreciating everyone that reached out over the last couple of days." And in that video, he said he's still raspy, but he also said that he will be racing at Martinsville. So it looks like he made a full recovery after the accident. Now, that's a whole other story, and I might make a video on that, or I might talk about it on the live stream. But just good to see that he's okay and will be racing in Martinsville. So good luck to him, and hopefully he does big things at the Paperclip. This from Motor Stardom on Instagram, and Andretti joins Venturini. Let's try saying that 3 times real fast. Marco Andretti struck a deal with Venturini Motorsports to compete in the ARCA West season finale at Phoenix. So there you go, Marco Andretti continuing to get seat time in stock cars, which leads further to more rumors that Andretti is possibly going to come into NASCAR in some way, shape, or form. Of course, with Gainbridge being attached to Spire, that looks like, the one that gets the most talk as far as the rumors go. So just something else to be tracking with the Andretti deal. And this via Lee Spencer, a wet weather tire test at Homestead, Miami, hearing 3 drivers will participate in a test on the 1.5-mile track using Goodyear rain tires on Monday. The cars expected to participate include the 6 car with Ryan Preece, the 42, and the 48. So they're testing wet weather tires on a 1.5, probably would be the bigger story here, and that would probably get a lot of the conversation. Do I think wet weather tires or damp weather tires is ever probably going to be a good idea or even work on a 1.5? It just doesn't seem like a good idea. They're going too fast. But that's not the real story, because what else was in there, of course, is that Ryan Preece will be test driving the 6 car for RFK. And, of course, RFK has been rumored for a very long time to have a 3rd charter coming next season, whether they're buying one or leasing one, but they're going to have a 3rd car next year. And Ryan Preece has continued to be attached to that car. This, more or less, all but confirms that Ryan Preece will probably be driving for RFK next year if they have that charter, if that rumor is true. But it's looking more and more like the rumor could be true, because why else would Ryan Preece be the test driver for RFK at a tire test at Homestead, Miami? Man, silly season in full swing, and there can't even be that many seats left. So it's crazy that silly season is still going on with all the seats that have already been filled and transferred for next year already. There was, of course, a race yesterday, and 5'5", 125 pounds of raw terror from Corning, California wins that race, and that, of course, is Tyler George Reddick, his 8th win of his career, which ties him with Alex Bowman and Kyle Petty, and 1 away from tying Christopher Bell on that list, 70th on the list, if I'm not mistaken. And he did so in a must-win situation for him. It was a good track for him, and he did everything he had to do. He went out and won the pole. He won the first stage, and then on the last lap, he made a heck of a lap. Like, he just drove it in there, it stuck, and he just absolutely just ripped the top of that track. It was an amazing finish, a great final lap. And he did what he had to do. This was a must-win situation, like I said, and he won. So when the lights shine the brightest, Tyler Reddick shows up for sure. And, of course, we've seen that in the Xfinity Series as well. Like I've always said about this guy, generational talent. And before the playoffs started, I had him for sure as one of my favorites that would win the championship. But after the playoffs, just things beyond his control and some things within the team's control, strategy and stuff didn't go their way, and they just looked like they were being a dud in the playoffs. But now, right moment, right time, he is now right back in it. So now I'm going to move him right back up to one of my favorites to win the championship. And just on a side note, the playoffs have been more chaotic this season than I can ever remember the playoffs being in any other season. Speaking of which, for Tyler Reddick to even get that win, he had to have the top groove, which Ryan Blaney gave to him. And I don't understand it, but before I get to that, let's just talk about Denny Hamlin here for a second, because Denny Hamlin had a long-run car, didn't have a short-run car, but fired off on that last restart and was able to get the lead even without basically the speed he needed to win that race, and he was able to put up a heck of a fight. That three-way fight at the end was amazing, but at the end of it, Ryan Blaney had control of the race going into turn 3, And for whatever reason, inexplicably, he gave Tyler Reddick the top groove. And this isn't hindsight or anything else, when he did it in the moment, I was like, oh, why are you doing that? I just didn't understand it, and it played out exactly like I thought it would play out into Tyler Reddick's favor. Tyler Reddick completely just ripped the top. I don't think Tyler Reddick at that moment even cared if he destroyed the wall or whatever. He was just going to bury it in there as deep as he could. And I say it was a mistake because of this. If you are the leader of the race, it doesn't matter where your car is the fastest. If the car behind you is really good, you take away the car behind you's fastest line. And the fastest line for the 45 all day was him ripping the top. Now, was the 45 fast enough to possibly pass on the bottom? Possibly, but we know he wasn't as fast on the bottom as he was on the top. So yes, he was probably good in both places, but you got to make him beat you in the place where he's weakest, so you have to make him pass you low. So I was completely surprised when Ryan Blaney gave him the top there, and I'm not saying it's a mistake. Ryan Blaney is a champion. He's won more races in the Cup Series than I have, so I'm not saying it was a mistake, but I just don't understand the thought process and the logic behind it, because to me, when you know the guy behind you's best groove is the top, you take away the top. So I don't understand why he gave him the top there, but that being said, an amazing finish. This race at Homestead, Miami is going to be one of the best races at Homestead for a long time, and it's going to get talked about for a long time. It is going to be a classic forever. It had a little bit of everything in it, including some playoff driver drama, so let's get to that as well. Kyle Larson comes into this race at plus 35. Kyle Larson leaves this race at -7, and there are two incidents that we need to talk about. The first one was a blown tire where he hit the wall. He blew the tire. Luckily, he was riding the top already, but he blew the tire, hit the wall there. Not much you can do in that situation, but once again, another tire issue. And he had some not so nice things to say about the car when he said he just needed a moment to vent, basically saying, I don't understand how you can cut a tire and it can completely ruin your day because you can either get stuck or it can ruin the diffuser or whatever. He just went off. He had a little rant there, but he got himself back in the game. He refocused, and toward the end of this race, he had run down the leader, Ryan Blaney, and had several laps he was going to have to be able to pass Ryan Blaney, but he decided at an inopportune moment to try to split the difference between Ryan Blaney as he was going past the lapped car of Austin Dillon. He was going to try to, there was just enough room there, at least in Kyle Larson's opinion, to sort of split that and get past Ryan Blaney, get to his outside, and he tried to split that difference, and when he split that difference, it was definitely an overly aggressive move. And he spun out, and that basically cost him his race, where at that moment in the race, he was at least either plus 4 or 5 points to the cut line. But after that moment where he spun out, of course, like I just said, when he finished this race, he was -7. So coming in here and just doing whatever he needed to do to continue to have a points lead, he messed it up. And there's two sides to the argument about aggression. One side of the argument is just let him continue to be aggressive. That's what makes Kyle Larson Kyle Larson. And the other side of the argument is the people who are like, nobody ever talks about when Kyle Larson makes these mistakes, which I would counter with, we do talk about them. We just kind of ignore them because the previous statement, it gives you also all the wins you get as well. But I do think that there is a happy medium that can be found. When you see Kyle Larson doing things like that, maybe just key into him and say, hey, guess what? Bigger picture, we've seen Cliff Daniels do this before. So maybe that's what needs to be said in these situations going forward, because bigger picture, you don't want to finish second, but you still had several more laps to get past Ryan Blaney, and I think at that moment in the race, the car had enough speed that he definitely could have at least gotten a run and maybe gotten past Ryan Blaney. But that being said, I'm not gonna second guess somebody being overly aggressive either, because that is what makes great drivers great drivers. And that is to say, I'd like to see somebody be overly aggressive as opposed to being way too conservative and not trying to go for the win there. Now let's jump into who had a good race, your top 10. Of course, Tyler Reddick had a good race. Ryan Blaney had a good race, although I'm sure he wanted to get that win. Denny Hamlin, I know he's not going to be happy with third, but with the speed that car had, they were playing strategy when he was picking off all those cars at the end with the fresher tires, but I never thought the 11 car had the speed. I think the third place was probably more than that car actually had in it speed-wise, so I thought Denny Hamlin actually had a really good race. Christopher Bell doing Christopher Bell things, finishing fourth. He continues to be in control of the overall points lead, so he's going to be good to go to Phoenix. I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in C. Bell, unless something absolutely catastrophic happens at Martinsville. C. Bell is going to the Final Four. Then you got Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a really nice day, finishing in fifth. He had some of the best raw speed that I've seen from that car all season. He was up there leading laps. I mean, he was doing everything he needed to do to put himself in position to win. Didn't bounce his way, and the car didn't quite have enough speed to win. Then you got Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a really nice day, finishing in 5th. He had some of the best raw speed that I've seen from that car all season. He was up there leading laps. I mean, he was doing everything he needed to do to put himself in position to win. Didn't bounce his way, and the car didn't quite have enough speed to win. But he definitely gave himself every opportunity, and it was the first time in a long time for the 9 car that I'd seen that raw speed at a 1.5 at least. His teammate William Byron, also in a similar situation, had a lot of good raw speed, but just not quite enough for the cars up front, but also had a good day. Looked like they were just a little bit off on that last adjustment. 48 car Alex Bowman continuing to run well, even though always people want to put him on the hot seat. 7th place finish there for AB. AJ Allmendinger, nice run for him, finishing in 8th. This is a really good track for AJ Allmendinger. Before this race, he had an average finish in the last 2 races of 4th, so the 8th place finish not completely shocking. But I'm sure a lot of people are surprised to see him up there if you don't look at the statistics every weekend like a weirdo like I do. Carson Hocevar also had a good run, finishing in 9th place here. And he's had a lot of raw speed here at the end of the season, and he is continuing to race, and he's not driving over his head and wrecking people and stuff like that like he's been accused of or, you know, basically proven in the truck series. So it's good to see he's matured in that aspect, and the fact that he's racing with these top guys shows you how much of also, I spoke about Tyler Reddick being a generational talent. I think Carson Hocevar is also another guy you can talk about being a generational talent, and he's starting to put it together here in the Cup Series. And then the aforementioned future RFK driver, in my opinion, Ryan Preece there in 10th place. Good run for him. Josh Berry, 11th. Another good run for the rookie. Not going to win Rookie of the Year. I think Hocevar's got that locked up. But Chase Briscoe in 12th as well. Kyle Larson in 13th. So he recovers to 13th. But like I said, he's going to get my bad race because he just, man, threw away that points cushion that he would have liked to have. And we'll talk about the points here in a minute. Mike McDowell, 14th. Good run for him. And Chris Buescher, 15th. Continuing to be the best driver of those who didn't make the playoffs. And for those keeping score at home, Justin Haley wins this round of the Corey LaJoie-Justin Haley trade by finishing in 34th. Corey LaJoie, 35th. Both made contact with the 54 at different points in the race, which was just sort of a weird coincidence, or maybe the 54 was doing a G against former and current Spire drivers. I don't know. So that was my best and worst. Here's Milton's worst. He's got Justin Haley as his worst driver of the day. Started 10th, finished 34th. Haley spun himself out when he cut across Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s car on lap 1. He damaged the underbody and hampered his race pace, not to mention he was later spun by Ty Gibbs. Verdict, great potential ruined by lap 1 incident. And Milton's best of the race is who I was just talking about there. Carson Hocevar, 9.5, started 15th, finished 9th. Hocevar ran and maintained a top 10 pace with a Spire car. He ran as high as 5th with top brass in the Cup Series, earned stage points, and had an average running position of 10th. Verdict, a superb drive in midfield machinery. There you go. Check out Milton on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. All right, that was the finishing order. Now let's look at the points. And Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano are locked in. At plus 29 is Christopher Bell. He's basically locked in unless, like I said, something absolutely terrible or crazy happens lap 1 at Martinsville. William Byron at plus 7 over Kyle Larson, who is at minus 7. Denny Hamlin, minus 18. Ryan Blaney, minus 38. And Chase Elliott, minus 43. And of those 5 that are below Bell, every single one of them has won at Martinsville. So Martinsville is going to be an absolutely crazy race. It's going to be super, super good for as far as the playoffs go. And hopefully with the option tire, Martinsville is a more competitive race than we've seen in the past. So hopefully everything works out. But yeah, we've got one that's lining up to be a humdinger here at the Paperclip. Manufacturers points, 1240 for Chevrolet and 1195 for both Ford and Toyota. So second place is tied once again. But at plus 45 with 2 races to go, looks like Chevrolet has it hemmed up. But it is a very intense battle for that second place position in the manufacturer's point, and we will continue to track it for the rest of the season. All right, a little bit of a longer video, but there was a lot to cover, so sorry about that. But all right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you made it this far, we'd love to have your subscription. If not, I'll just keep making these things. And if you already subscribed, I appreciate you guys for being subscribed. Well, if you got a question, comment, or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section. I get to as many of them as I can. Also wanted to give it a shout out to Wade Brown. Saw him at Orange County this weekend where we won the Charger Championship with Lane Woods. So also a shout out to Lane Woods. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.